How's it going, everyone? Today's game is kind of an oldie for me, reaching back to some of my younger years. Except, unlike some of the other games I played back in the early 2000s, this one I never actually got to complete. Until now. And that game is Herdy Gerdy for the PlayStation 2. This game, well, surprised me when I first played it. Not the good kind of surprise, to be honest, but not really the bad kind either, you know? Just sort of like, huh. That's a thing. I'm sure from the box art here, many of you are thinking it's just going to be another 3D platformer that's trying to enter the ring with so many others at the time. But no, this game's focus is in the game's title. You are indeed herding in this game. Woot. The game was created by Coss Design, who many of you will probably remember for bringing Lara Croft to us all, as well as a lot of random games that, unsurprisingly, I've never heard of before. Sadly, after the disappointment of Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness, Coss Design was swapped out for Crystal Dynamics by Eidos Interactive to lead the next few adventures of Lara Croft. Due to their leading franchise no longer paying the bills, many staff members ended up leaving to form another studio. So it's one of the last games that Coss Design got to work as a full team. Does it hold up at all? Well, let's see for ourselves. This, my friends, is Herdy Gerdy. Our story begins with our protagonist Gerdy waking up to discover that his father is in a deep sleep and refusing to wake up, creating a huge complication as he was about to head out to the annual herding tournament today. Gerdy is told by this guy called Yadadril about some acorn of life and how this guy named Sadorf has it, which makes him all powerful and stuff. Apparently he put Gerdy's father to sleep so as not to possibly beat him in the tournament and win the acorn, which he's put up as a prize. Not gonna lie, this story really doesn't make any sense. Why would Sadorf put this all-powerful acorn as a prize? You're just asking to be dethroned, pal. So anyway, there's your plot. As Gerdy, we have to make our way across the island to the tournament and beat Sadorf in order to reclaim the acorn to wake Gerdy's dad up. Simple enough, I guess. The game has us jump from level to level, having to herd different types of creatures into pens in order to reach a certain amount, as shown by this bar here. If you manage to herd enough of them, you can unlock a new level and you can proceed forward. Some levels also have multiple pathways connected to them, meaning multiple goals for you to accomplish. At points you'll have to return to previous levels once you've obtained a certain item, which I'll get to in a bit. Also, the way you reach each level is with the help of creepy old gypsy ladies. So what's the herding like then? Well, to be honest, it's very hit or miss. The way you start out is by herding these small bunny-like creatures known as dupes, simply by moving towards them. Now, as cute as they may seem, and herding them around in big groups looks like fun, the fact remains that trying to get these little bastards from point A to B can be so frustrating at times. It's honestly hard to know what to blame here. Is it the AI? Is it the collision detection? Is it both? Probably both. On a positive side, however, pretty much all the other creatures are a lot easier to herd, the most common way being a flute to get them to follow you in a Pied Piper-like fashion. It's definitely nowhere near perfect, however, as creatures will still get caught on edges at times, and you'll be forced to backpedal in the hopes of finding them. Other creatures to herd are the bleeps that can glide from ledges, the honks that can swim, and the most troublesome of all, the gromps and later the grimps, which if not locked away will start eating other herdable creatures if too close to them. If you lose too many creatures from getting eaten or possibly drowning or dropping from too high up, then the progress bar will start to decrease from the other side. Too much of this could result in you losing the lock and having to restart the level. Thankfully, I didn't end up having to restart any levels, except for the time challenge levels. Along your journey, you'll have levels where characters will time you to see if you can fill up all the pens while beating their time. And if even one creature dies, you have to start all over again. This can get kind of annoying. It's usually at these points where you are rewarded with items to help you along your journey. As I mentioned, you get a flute to help you guide some of the more smarter creatures that thankfully works on just about everything besides the dupes and the gromps. Before that, however, you're given a herding stick that helps you stop dupes from running off when you're away, as well as a horn that really only helps to get the attention of gromps when they're close to eating one of your smaller creatures. Everything else is, well, kind of underwhelming. There's shoes to help you run fast, a swimsuit so as not to die in water, gloves to push blocks. Hell, in order to climb ladders in this game, you need to find a magic feather. Yeah, I'm serious. Apparently this miner here just invented them recently, and they're not strong enough to climb yet, even for a child of such little weight. So let me get this straight here. In this fictional world, they are able to have ships, mills, and fully livable houses. But it's only now that ladders are becoming the latest trend.
And what do you mean they're not complete yet? What, is your Kickstarter still being funded or something?
Yeah, that's still only a work in progress, but my Kickstarter has over $5,000 under it, which means if we reach our stretch goal, we can have them come out in different colors. Now, if only I can think of something that can get the paint on easy like. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll think of something on my dear old picture box over there.
Anyway, moving on. The levels tend to range from being alright to just infuriating. The first few were pretty nice and seemed to fit the tone of the game while also managing to feel progressive, but sadly they just start to meld together. A whole bunch of them are just in wood-like environments but are set at different times of the day. Sure, they still look nice, but they hardly feel like they've built on what we've done already. And then there's ones like Belder's Spring and the Lost Bear that are just confusing as all hell and too damn dark to see anything, even when I do change my TV settings. Now there is a map that you can pop out at the side of the screen, which can help out quite a bit by both displaying the various creatures as well as their matching pens. However, it takes up way too much of the damn screen. Seriously, could we not have just had a normal map set to the select button like, I don't know, most games? Despite all that, however, I will say the world still has some charm to it. The characters for the time they came out do look nice, well, when they aren't talking.
I'll reach the tournament and win back the acorn. I promise. Hi, Sarah. What you doing? But you can't eat him. He's just a baby. Wow, that'd really help.
Speaking of the characters, I should probably talk about Gerdy himself. As video game kids go, he's definitely no Ellie or Clementine, that's for sure. Yeah, I know, it's a kid's game and all, but he just comes off bland most of the time for me. The most we get is a bit of him doubting himself, but this journey doesn't really feel that threatening for one child to overcome, no matter how big you make it all sound.
Hey, I'm on my way to the tournament, you know.
You got to be kidding. That's for grown-ups.
Oh, if you excuse me, I'm off to my own tournament to play a children's card game.
As mentioned before, the levels do look nice, when you can see what you're running into. Also, little additions like normal animals around do give the level some much needed detail, even if they don't do anything. I must say though, the camera really does become the worst enemy you'll be fighting in this game in some of the more enclosed levels.
But now, let's talk about something I've been kind of trying to hold off on. This isn't going to be pleasant, people.
Each level has a total of 100 bells to pick up, which apparently have been placed by this fella. Because video games, I guess? Now at first you're made to think they're just there so you can be rewarded with extras after you've collected them all in a level. However, as so happens, they actually play a much bigger role later. One of the items you pick up halfway through the game is this hammer that looks pretty lame, and guess what? It is lame. What this item does allows you to activate switches which do all the normal switch-like stuff like opening doors, pulling up ramps, and unlocking grump cages. Now at first it sounds like a harmless gameplay mechanic. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Well, how about the fact that in order for you to even activate the switches, you need to collect the right amount of bells displayed on the base of the switch. This really changes the gameplay format, as you not only have to be on the lookout for creatures now, but you also have to be on the lookout for bells in order to make the game much easier to maneuver around, especially in the later levels. You see, the first few levels with the hammer aren't that much, they're just asking for about 20 or 40 bells for you to at least complete the level, but towards the end they are asking you for a full set. That's all 100 bells if you want to complete the level and carry on with your adventure. This becomes so problematic as it takes away so much from what I liked at the start of the game. With you finding a herd of creatures and trying to find out which would be the easiest way to get them into their pens. But this just turns it into a linear collectathon, kind of like what they were joking at the beginning of Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. And even they had the good sense to not do this to their game. The second to last level, called Foxtown, hammers this point in the most, as in order to move forward you have to find bells to open gates, but because I can't find all of them I end up going back and missing ones that were at the corner of my eye. It took me almost an hour to complete this goddamn level.
So yeah, my opinion of this game may have dropped down a bit towards the end.
Speaking of Foxtown, there's two other things you should know about. The first is that because of the dark corridor-like environment, they figure it'd be neat to turn this level into a one-off stealth level.
Hey guys, here's a maths problem for you. What does a stealth segment and a terrible camera equate to? Complete and utter total chaos. Stealth segments in video games can have multiple effects on the player. One I like is the satisfaction of outsmarting your enemies by avoiding them. But of course, one of the key tensions is the possibility of being caught. If the game's camera is in your way, then it's not adding tension, that's only adding frustration! The second point of irritation I found is that to make up for the bad camera, your map shows you the guards and their line of sight. Oh, wait a minute, that sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? Oh yeah, except for the fact the map still takes up way too much of the damn screen, and what's more, the actual map itself doesn't even match up with the level's layout at all. They couldn't even get that right!
This, along with a terrible AI, just made the game feel broken to me. They really should have taken more time to fix these issues, rather than just leaving them in for us all.
Looking over the extras, I can see there was a ton of stuff left out. I have to wonder how short on time they were on the development for this game. The game has only one boss fight in it in the middle of the game, and it just feels so out of place, sort of like a lot of things in this game. There's a level where in order for you to get the bells, you have to find beavers playing hide and seek. Why is this a thing? Why? This isn't mixing things up, this is just irritating me. Oh, and by the way, it turns out Sadorf is this guy. This is our villain. He's not some big bad Sauron looking guy, he's just this skinny crocodile looking fella. Is it weird that I was anticipating the mole that had been helping me along my journey to be the bad guy? I don't know, I guess when I was younger I imagined the ending to this being so much more grander than it turned out to be.
So in the end, does Herdy Gerdy still hold up today? No, not really. To be honest, it's hard for me to give this game much praise, but then again, it's also hard for me to not give it points alone for such original ideas at the time.
The main problem is that the mechanics brought up later don't fit together and just don't add anything to the herding gameplay at all. Instead, they just end up throwing out levels that are structured too similarly from one another and decide to take on a completely different shift in direction to what they've done before. If things were handled differently, this could have been on a level of something like Portal 2, but instead it sets itself goals that sadly it just doesn't end up reaching in the end.
If you're looking for a game that's both kind of original but also very kid-friendly at the same time, then, well, honestly there are a lot better games to pick out than this one, but if you've already played those and I know you're desperate, then maybe you might find something really of worth here. But for me, I give this a miss. So with that said, I bid thee all a thankful farewell.
Hey there, thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to see even more content to come. If that's not enough Hot Coss gamer goodness for you, why not check out the brand new Hot Coss Facebook and Twitter pages as well.